Welcome, everyone. This is David Morgan of the Morgan Report, and I have Joness, CEO of Canter Resources, and I'll just be very blunt. I think everything that we've done with Warwick Smith has gone up and then down. That's the nature of stocks. They all go up and down. But Canter is a unique position, as you all know from reading the Morgan Report. I won't dwell on that. It's a situation that can be vast. But I'll just state straight out that lithium is no longer mineral de jour, and I kind of keep a sense of humor about the whole sector. I've been at it so long, and certainly there are hot flashes throughout the sector. Some minerals are, well known, and it's kind of the place people want to invest. And then later on, there's another one. It's almost a fad in a way. Not that they aren't critical, not that they're not serious. It's just that it's watching investors' mentality move from one to another. Having said that, the lithium situation has cooled off. We're going to touch on that briefly, but we may be, and I say this not tongue in cheek, with really seriousness, that the next mineral de jour we might have a jump on, because there's one that I've studied briefly. I got a briefing on it about a year and a half ago. We'll go in with Joness a little deeper, but that's boron. And so let's just set the scene, Joness, with where we are, the milestones we've hit, the ones we're looking forward to, and get a briefing on boron, and try to wrap this up by the top of the hour, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So in terms of milestones, we've done everything with the team. You mentioned Warwick, Ken Cunningham as well. The two of them are now formally on the board of directors. Just had our AGM completed. The insider ownership on the board is just shy of 10%. When you add in gentlemen like Michael Gentili and some of our other advisors, that number climbs to over 15%. We have water rights here, acquired this project, have all of our permits in place to get underway with our drilling, and that has commenced. We announced a 10-hole geoprobe program. That's more than halfway complete, should wrap up within about a week. Successfully collecting brine samples. That was certainly one of the objectives. We weren't sure in this shallow interval if we would be successful with that. We have been collecting 2 brine samples in each drill hole drilled to date. So we'll get sediment and brine samples back from this program. And given the success, we're actually contemplating expanding that program, potentially even doubling the number of geoprobe holes while we have the rig on site and our team there. So looking forward to those results. Those should be out later this month, towards the end of May, or during the first half of June. We should have all of those results out to the market. So excited to get those results shortly.
Very good. For those that are brand new, because we're always getting new members. In fact, we did a campaign. We actually picked up a fairly good amount. Can you just briefly tell us what differs on this lithium project versus almost anything else that's out there?
Well, number one, it's a brine. There are other brine projects, but I think, in the environment we're in now, with the lithium spot having come off and kind of in a bottoming sideways pattern, I think there's been more of a spotlight on brine projects again. Hard rock certainly higher on the cost curve. Clay sediment deposits are interesting, but still some skepticism or unknowns in terms of processing. Brine deposits, lower part of that cost curve, and tested and true. They're a known commodity. So it's a brine deposit. I think what makes our project differentiated from a lot of the others and quite unique, it's called the Columbus Lithium Boron Project for a reason. Where you have boron, you often have lithium. The reverse can't be said. Our closest neighbor, Ioneer, they have the Rhyolite Ridge project with a significant sediment resource of lithium and boron. Those same volcanic source rocks terminate and feed the Columbus Basin as well. So I think having those 2 commodities, as well as potassium, really gives this project multiple shots on goal in terms of the commodity mix. And we're quite excited about the boron market's potential going forward as well.
Okay, let's visit the boron market. Let's get a little education on where it's used. I know it's fairly ubiquitous. When I went to the Silver Institute gathering the second time years ago, I'm talking 3 years ago, but at that time it was the silver/zinc meeting. And what was so fascinating was, although I knew zinc prices and all that, I didn't know what I learned at that conference of how much zinc is used. It's like silver. And boron, I think, is similar. I won't compare it to zinc exactly. There's a lot of these minerals that are critical. I mean, I'll drone on a second longer, Jonas, bear with me. But really, when you get down to the hard facts, if you can't mine it, if you can't grow it, you got to mine it. People are unappreciative of how much the mining industry is critical to their life. And they just take it for granted. They pull these things off the shelf like, you can use borax as a detergent for crying. So back to you, but I just want to make the point that I like the fact that any project that I suggest or recommend in the Morgan Report have more than one mineral, if possible, and also a base that brings the bottom line where they're not dependent on just a certain asset. I mean, if you look at American Pacific, and I'm off track, but I mean, they've got almost anything you can name in size. But this too, I think, is important. So let me stop, give it back to you. Let's learn more about boron and why it's going to be important to Canter Resources.
Yeah, I mean, the backdrop for the boron market, it's you mentioned borax and detergents. I think that's maybe where for a lot of investors the knowledge starts and stops, right? It's historically that was what it was used for. Back in the late 1800s, the Columbus Project was supporting a thriving 1,000-person town. They had a newspaper called the Borax Miner and a little post office. And there was 4 borax companies out there producing on this same playa. So there's history there. The boron market is an established $2 billion US annual market and growing. The applications that people aren't as aware of, it's used for agriculture to increase crop yields. It's used in aerospace. It's used as permanent magnets in electric vehicles and all EV transport. Used in wind turbines, solar. It's used in military, Department of Defense highlighting it for tanks and body armor, et cetera. So there's a lot of emerging applications. We are very confident it will be on the 2025 critical list. And the scarcity of supply, or at least of significant deposits globally, is notable. There are 2 companies, Eti Maden, it's a state-owned Turkey outfit, and Rio Tinto, their US borax division, that collectively control about 80% of the world's supply. So there is certainly a need to supply more of this domestically. And again, I think that's what makes Columbus pretty unique. We don't care at the end of the day if this is the boron lithium project or the lithium boron project, right? We have 2 commodities here we think are of significant interest. And with these results, we hope to start showing some good boron values shortly.
Excellent. Well, I think you've answered and given us a great update. I'm sure we can talk further. Why don't you give me your perspective as a CEO and been in the business and been on the toughest part of the business and the most exciting part of the business, the discovery arena. Where are we globally, meaning, Vancouver's, is the heart of it, as far as raising money, interest in minerals, worry about the overall economy? How much tougher, and I'm going to put the words in your mouth, you can correct me, is it now than it was, let's say, when I started the Morgan Report 25 years ago, and people were just throwing money at new projects, and you just basically had to have a suit and a story, and now you can have something really game changing in a way, and yet it's very, very difficult. So could you kind of outline where you sit right now, looking forward, what you think the overall sector is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's evolved into a much more challenging environment for juniors that, and you can have a great idea and an opportunity to explore and develop something that's very critical to the way of life for everybody. And yet the traditional broker-dealer networks are not what they were. They're somewhat broken. South of the border where you are, it's, there's a lot of red tape in terms of brokers being able to go share some of these ideas with their clients. It's a lot more challenging than it was, and yet you can have gambling sites promote to anybody that they should be investing. But the rules and regs around somebody even with a PhD that may not have a certain amount of money in their bank accounts. They may not qualify to be accredited, and they can't even subscribe to a private placement. So there are a lot of different rules out there that are making it more challenging. I think the avenue for a lot of junior companies that we need to lean in on is the strategic partners. That is ultimately the majors and mid-tiers that are producing these commodities have not been spending as much of their own capital on new grassroots or greenfield exploration. They've been focusing around their existing operations. They, as you know, need to keep replenishing their resources and reserves. I think that is the main path for a lot of junior companies, is to go source capital from the bigger players in our industry. And get more creative in terms of how to reach the end investor. Tell your story a little differently. The traditional networks are not working like they once were, for sure.
Well, yeah, you're young enough and smart enough. I think maybe you can open that avenue. I just had a thought. I mean, to me, what I've learned, and I'm always learning more, is a new, you're not a gold, but let's say a Newmont or Barrick or, well, let's take a Rio Tinto. They do everything.
Yeah.
They don't really seem to get involved until you guys have gone so far. You're usually like at the PEA, and then they come sniffing around. Why is that? Why don't they have somebody on staff that's a young geo that goes and basically looks, their job is to look at 10 projects that they think have merit based on just desktop analysis and go sniff them out. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. If I was running a big, mining house, maybe not Rio Tinto size, but something that was a conglomerate, I would want to not necessarily invest, but at least be early to the move, so I could help JV make an agreement or whatever. Am I missing something, or is that done? Because I don't think anyone does it that early.
It is happening more and more, David. You look at Agnico Eagle, right? One of the premier names in the gold space, and they sign strategic partnerships, invest in the equity of junior companies with promising projects. Rio, you spoke of American Pacific. I mean, they were invested in the Madison project early. That was a past producer, but it was pre-resource, just really promising mineralization and targets. So you are seeing more and more of it. I think it has been something that's been lacking, but we are seeing more of these earlier stage deals where, whether it's the producers or developers, are looking to pick up and build their pipeline a little earlier. We could certainly benefit from more of it, but we are seeing a trend to more of those types of transactions.
Good. Well, thanks for enlightening me and my viewers, our viewers. And I'm not surprised at all that Agnico Eagle is one of them. They just have a management that's always, from my studied years in the business, one step ahead, and I love that, because innovation is what makes things better for everyone. Is there anything we haven't covered? I mean, it's been a kind of a quick update, but I think it's important. I think, the stock's down from when we recommended it. It doesn't bother me. On these juniors, it's always been tough. I did tell my people, don't chase it too far. I like to put a buy limit when we first put a recommendation out there, because knowing markets, they usually get a little bit of enthusiasm early on. And then, I really don't move markets, although I have, not deliberately. But, we got a pretty strong following, and most people that subscribe are serious investors, and they want to, they're looking for that being first on the block or whatever. So is there anything you want to say in summary? I enjoyed our time together as always. And I know the milestones are being met so far. And I guess I'll just let you close it out.
Yeah. The dynamics in the market, doesn't help that lithium has come off, but really it's really due to the free trading paper that we've been working through. You can see the volume that's increased. I think we're getting close to getting through that now. So I would expect, with drill results coming, we've expanded the project. Technically, we're more excited today than we were when we got started. So the project's moving along well. I think your viewers understanding that boron component here early could be valuable. It's something we certainly plan to talk about more, especially as we start to pull values out of the ground. And I would just leave by saying, you know, I've been a buyer in the market on this weakness. I've picked up another 30,000 shares or so myself in the last couple of weeks. So certainly believe in it. Excited to get some results and move forward.
Well, great. It's always good to get a video update. Appreciate your time. As always, we still like the project. We're hanging in there. Not that as much hanging. We back to our latest recommendation, but exciting times ahead. And thinking back of what we said a moment ago, I think that with the care taken with these majors coming into the junior market, we may not be seeing these huge multiples, although we may, on real projects. You maybe see a buyout or something with a major. In other words, you might not get that 10 or 20 bagger, you may, but you also might get a a 5 bagger, but it's in a major company that's blue chip. And I actually like that personally. Of course, I'm older and I've been looking more for blue chips all the way through, but I kind of like the idea of getting the industry in a less speculative situation, meaning that you just don't throw a name out there on a project that's been turned over 8 times. It's been drilled with, some of these projects have been drilled 30, 40, $50 million, and they still haven't found anything. And these guys will take them the 7th time and put a new name on it and say, look at all the money that's put in the ground. Yeah, and not discovered anything. So I'm not trying to be, I'm a real guy. You know me. Anyone that's dealt with me knows that. But I think that maybe what you're suggesting, or I'm asking, as maybe there's just been a little bit of a change of consciousness in how to do the business better.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's I think there needs to be more consolidation within the space, right? Combining companies to get bigger, stronger, have access to that limited amount of institutional capital that's out there, create more liquidity for investors and bigger platforms of combining teams and good projects together. So I think we will see that theme continue.
Great. Well, you're part of it. So
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks as always.
All right. You're most welcome.